So continuing to talk about our learning approach. So the invitation is to get engaged in this process. As you watch a video, see what it triggers in you, what it inspires, what it evokes, what it encourages in you. And I invite you to keep a journal of this 21-day journey, to see what comes to you, because sometimes there's a very rapid transmission and transformation, and other times you might be in a big inquiry. We're going to touch a lot of subjects and go through a lot of different passages and journeys together. It's an invitation to keep a journal, written journal I suggest, not a typing one, to engage the movement, the coordination of the hand, get us writing again. So, a point I would like to elaborate on is intelligence. To really just have a little moment's inquiry into what this means. So I say the word intelligence, and just be curious about all the beliefs that rise up in you of your interpretation of that. So just ask yourself for a moment, what happens to you when I say the word intelligence? What comes up for you? And I'm going to describe what I'm going to call multi-leveled intelligence. One way to picture this is to imagine white light passing through a prism. And as it passes through the prism, it creates 7 rays, the rays of a rainbow. 7 colors. So I'm going to talk about intelligence in terms of these 7 colors as related to 7 different dimensions, which can be located on our spine if you like. So, the grounded dimension is the red color. And this level of intelligence is primordial. It's the vital intelligence of the body. It's the primal life force. It's like it's raw, it's wild, it's untamed, it's unruly, it's volcanic, it's pure power. So this is like a very strong, innate, indwelling intelligence that allows us to feel into our own wildness, like the primal soup that we come from. So we move up the spine into what's called the sacral region. We enter the color orange. And this area is all to do with power and sexuality. Like our orientation to power, to the life force, our orientation from this in our sexuality. And sexuality being very expanded to mean sensuality, pleasure, joy, just the experience of the senses, our embodied nature. And this vital power in our bellies, in the solar plexus, in the sacral center, is to do with instincts. Instincts for survival, primal survival, the power to create territory, to give direction, the power to hunt, to eat, to make houses, to shelter, to protect, and so forth. And the generative power of sexuality, the power to generate and continue the evolution of the species. The power to feel vital happiness and joy and well-being, the renewal that comes with this creative life force in our body. So it's instinctual intelligence. So we move up into the solar plexus, the yellow color. We're moving into our sense of self, personality self, and the orientation we have with society. So we could call this our social self, or the social intelligence, how we interact with family, with friends, with the outside world, often seen as the interface between our inner world and the outer world. So there's a lot of adaptation that takes place here, a lot of conditioning, a lot of rules and morals and beliefs to follow. So it's the intelligence to interact with the social environment. So we move up into the heart center, it's green color. We start to enter into the intelligence of empathy, feeling, compassion, sensitivity, tenderness, wonder, innocence, openness. There's a real intrinsic beauty that starts to emerge. We start to have an aesthetic perception. So the intelligence of beauty, the intelligence of love. So we move up further to the throat. We have this wonderful blue color. we start to come into the intelligence of sound, intonation, like the transmission through voice, word, song, how we present ourselves as a vibrational being and communicate. So this is like the birth where words become worlds through the power of our words and communication. So we move up to the third eye, to imagination here. We have visual intelligence, the capacity to produce images, dreams, visions, wishes, and how this intelligence allows us to create new futures, to step forward on the timeline and manifest new worlds for ourselves and others. Moving up to the crown, we have the violet. We can call this inspirational intelligence or illuminative intelligence. It's the intelligence of pure beingness. It's what happens in deep meditation, stillness, tranquility. It's just a very brief introduction to these different levels, 7 colors of intelligence. And the reason I'm bringing this in now is in reference to what I was talking about earlier as the multidimensional being and multidimensional learning, is that all the time we are learning through all 7 colors, through all different dimensions and aspects of our being, but we're not always aware of this. So an inquiry I'd like you to begin with yourselves is to see how much of these levels of intelligence are open and how much they're closed. What is awake, what is suppressed? What is allowed, what is denied? So start to just get in touch with yourself. I invite you after this video to do a little meditation or self-inquiry, just to check in with yourself, just to see how much of this intelligence is alive in your system, in your awareness. If we are isolating our intelligence just to the intellect, which is somewhere between the throat and the third eye, we're isolating our intelligence just like this and saying this is how we interpret the world, and we're not engaged with feeling, sensation, wildness, inspiration, then our experience is going to be limited to that interpretation. It's like wearing blinkers. It's like deliberately putting a filter on. And of course we have to filter some things. It'd be too overwhelming if we allowed everything in all at once. But there's this sensation of opening ourselves up so that we can engage more fully with the life. So, the practice I'd like you to engage in is exploring for yourself these 7 intelligences and just starting to get a sense of breathing into them, breathe into each of these different dimensions, and get a sense of how open or closed they are for you, how active or passive. And as you do this inquiry, I want you to do it without any judgment, just open-hearted noticing. This is true of all the things I suggest. Do not judge yourself. Be kind, be generous, be caring, be compassionate. This is an inquiry. We're developing and cultivating. We're going to grow most through self-loving contact with ourselves, by being generous with ourselves. So if you notice something's missing, be curious. This is missing. Great adventure. I can fill this up. I can expand into this. I can cultivate this. And in a wider sense, the reason I'm inviting us into this approach right now is so that when we meet more in terms of relationship, the loving aspect of this training, more in terms of creativity, it's very important we learn to create and relate on all 7 levels to have a very enriching, optimal experience of living.